Hello, my name is Matt Beaver from the Corpro Safety Team. I'd like to welcome you to the AGON Focus 4 and Life-Saving Rule Training for Confined Spaces. So what are confined spaces? Confined spaces are areas not necessarily designed for people. They are large enough for workers to enter and perform certain jobs. A confined space also has a limited or restricted means for entry or exit and is not designed for continuous occupancy and are difficult to exit in the event of an emergency. Confined spaces include, but are not limited to, tanks, vessels, silos, storage bins, hoppers, vaults, pits, manholes, tunnels, equipment housing, ductwork, and pipelines. When it comes to risk involving confined spaces, the stakes are high. Incidents revolving around confined spaces are commonly a catastrophic event which can end in serious injury or loss of life. The first step in preventing fatalities is recognition. The causes of most confined space entry incidents are simple. Employers and workers fail to recognize and control the hazards associated with the confined spaces, and they conduct inadequate or incorrect emergency response, resulting in the death of the initial entrant, the would-be rescuer, or both. About 2.1 million workers enter permit confined spaces annually. According to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, approximately 60% of the confined space fatalities are rescuers, and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration reported that when multiple deaths occur during a rescue, the majority of the victims are would-be rescuers. This is why it's important for us to understand the steps necessary in keeping employees safe before the hazards of confined spaces are presented. Proper training and knowledge of confined spaces will put us in a place that greatly reduces the exposure to risk in and around such places. So, throughout this training, we will discuss what a confined space and permit-required confined space is, hazards associated with confined spaces, monitoring of confined spaces, mitigation of the hazards around confined spaces, roles of employees around confined spaces, authorization of entrance, type of equipment involved in confined space entry, and AGON's requirements for entry into confined spaces. I hope this training can add some valuable knowledge on the topic of confined spaces and provides a feeling of safety and security when working in and around these spaces encountered on the job. Enjoy the training, and thank you.
No worker shall allow their body to break the plane of a confined space without first completing a documented atmospheric test with a calibrated gas meter and ensuring that all conditions of the confined space entry permit are complied with. In the Infrastructure Solutions platform, the Big 5 or 7 will be a critical part and will be adhered to 100% of the time without exception. OSHA defines a confined space as being made up of three main parts: being large enough for an employee to enter and perform work, has limited or restricted means of entry and exit, and is not designed for continuous occupancy. In addition, a substance that has the ability to engulf or asphyxiate the entrant, a potentially hazardous atmosphere, inwardly converging walls within the space, or a floor that slopes downward tapering to a small cross-section, contains any other serious safety or health hazard. So what hazards could we encounter on our job sites each day? Ensuring that we have a properly calibrated gas monitor is the first step in mitigating the risk in a confined space when air monitoring is concerned. Also, remember proper barricading, signage, and the proper inspection for fall protection is required in keeping us safe in a confined space entry. Ensure that air samples are taken from all levels of a confined space in order to capture all gases present in the confined space. Improper monitoring could be immediately dangerous to health and life. Simply dropping a monitor into the hole will not be sufficient enough for proper sample reading. Gases will vary in weight and will distribute themselves in different pockets throughout a confined space. Take a moment to identify which of these employees is breaking the plane of a confined space. If you chose these three pictures, you were correct. Authorized entrants must know the hazards they are facing. They must be able to recognize signs and symptoms of exposure, understand the consequences of exposure to hazards, communicate with attendants as necessary, and alert attendants to warning signs or existence of hazardous conditions. Authorized entrants must wear a chest or full body harness with a retrieval line attached at the center of the entrance back near shoulder level, above the entrance head. Wristlets or anklets may be used in lieu of chest or full body harness if employer can demonstrate the use of chest or full body harness is infeasible or creates a greater hazard. Make sure pockets are empty so we aren't punctured or harnesses are tore. Attendants must be aware of behavioral effects of potential exposures, maintain count and identity of entrants, remain outside the space until relieved, communicate with entrants, and monitor activities inside and outside the space, and order exit if required. Attendants must also summon rescuers if necessary, prevent unauthorized entry, perform non-entry rescue. Their sole job is to be an attendant only. Entry supervisors must issue confined space permits, know the hazards of the confined space, verify that all tests have been conducted, verify that all procedures and equipment are in place before signing the permit, terminate entry if necessary, and cancel permits. Entry supervisors must also verify availability of rescue services and means for summoning, removal of unauthorized individuals, terminate entry if necessary, cancellation of permits, and coordination of shift change. So what are the requirements across AGION for confined space entry? In situ form has the Big Five in regards to confined space entry. Please read below. FIBRWRAP has the Big Seven in regard to confined space entry. Please read the below. The corrosion protection platform had the below requirements. Offices under the CPP are United Pipeline Systems, CorPro, and ACS. Please read below. If you have any questions in regard to confined space entry, please feel free to reach out to any member of the safety team for your questions. Thank you again.